to this week's episode of Ask the CEO, a show that comes to your television every Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. My name is Apollo Sabiiti, your host, week in and week out. Now, on this show, and I will not tire from saying this, we bring you people whose stories we believe have a thing or two to say to a youth who is watching the show out there, or better still, is able to catch the link much later after the show. We will go for a very short break, and when we return, I will be introducing our guest tonight. We'll be talking about the youths as a beacon of Africa's transformation, a continent that boasts of very big things, from the largest desert in the world to the longest river still in the world, and yet between the ages of 18 and 24, Africa has the youngest population in the world. We will be seeing what opportunity comes with that. Now, all that will be coming up as we listen to a story of a gentleman highly learned, gives opinion from oil to the political arena to society to everything. A man who is respected. I'm very sure you will be glad to put name to face finally. We'll be right back after the break.
With 200 million people aged between 15 and 24, Africa has the youngest population in the world. This can either be an opportunity or a ticking time bomb. At Young and Flourishing Hub, we seek to turn these numbers into an opportunity for Africa to become a global leader. Join us every Monday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. only on Church of Uganda Family TV, as we take you through the discussion of different topics that will enable you to become world-class leaders and mentors, grow your finances, and become world-class innovators. Young and Flourishing, transforming Africa.
Welcome back from that very short break. Now, this is Ask the CEO. In case you just joined in, it's always a pleasure knowing that you're watching and listening in from the other side. My name is Apollo Sabiiti once again, and joining us tonight is a fine gentleman who has opinion on a number of things in life. And I mean what I say because I say what I mean. His name is Mr. Mugisha Raymond. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Apollo. I'm happy to be here. And I look forward to making my humble contribution to the discourse that this program offers for our youth.
Very humble, man. It's a pleasure having you on the show, Mr. Mugisha Raymond. His friends call him Mpora. Yeah, we are glad to have you on the show. Now, before we go so far, for someone who's probably just like me, is an ardent follower of your write-ups, the opinions that you never shy away from sharing with the public from Uganda's oil to Africa's politics to all these arenas. Someone who has never put face to name, if I may use that phrase. Who is Raymond?
Okay, Raymond is a 40-year-old Ugandan businessman, but I started off my career with intentions to become an engineer, and I qualified from university at the bachelor's level in agricultural engineering, and then I switched to audit with PwC, and I joined PwC in 2005. And then after that, I diverted into financial services as an auditor, and then finally I switched and became a risk management expert, so to speak. So currently that's what I do, and our intention in this sphere or discipline of business is to basically help enterprises to build resilience and capacity to withstand challenges and also maximize opportunities. And we do that really in the context of the African landscape. And that's what I apply myself to day in, day out most of the time to make my contribution to this continent.
Wow. Very, very polite gentleman you see over there. And his business advisory and coaching efforts, helping businesses, especially now that we're coming off a rough patch. No one knew 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, that the world would almost come to a standstill. And I think more than ever before, people need your touch.
Yeah, that's for sure. I will confess that I, for one, I didn't expect a scenario that would bring the world to a complete stop, really. And so to speak, even the whole idea of risk management from a business perspective must transform itself to suit such unique challenges.
Yeah.
And so business as we knew it, resilience, corporate resilience as we have always known it, everything has to change to suit these new realities. And yes, businesses of course would require a very conscious and systematic approach to managing risks that they face. And of course, unfortunately, many of the businesses have not matured to that level in our African environment. They don't really think that they need to be conscious about the risks they face, so they end up firefighting. You meet a challenge, you solve it, you move ahead. But of course, the systematic way would require that you forward thinking, you're futuristic in approach. You think about, you anticipate challenges and put measures in place to address them before you meet them, instead of meeting them head on and then trying to apply some corrective measures. So ideally, that's what we think about for every unique business, and try to put measures in place for them to address the unique challenges that are relevant to them. And so we hope that with time, many businesses will embrace this approach. It's a very simple to apply, really, but very useful and effective approach to managing business. And of course, in a country like Uganda, you'll find that mainly it's being applied by banks and telecoms, insurers, and government departments, and the big entities, because for them there are no two ways about it. They must have systematic processes in place. But of course, every business at its own level of complexity can put a measure in place that is really commensurate with the challenges, the size of the challenges, the size of the business itself, to suit their unique circumstances.
Very, very profound words from a man whose heart beats for Africa. In case you're just joining us on the show, this is Ask the CEO, a show that comes to you live every Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. And this show is powered by Young and Flourishing. Now, before we get our feet wet, Mr. Mugisha, I would like to, on behalf of our dear viewers, to know this fine gentleman, like the common phrase of the day, where does your story begin? Where do you trace your roots? How do you evolve through the stages of life to where we are today? And the second part is where we'll be putting emphasis on the youth and their role in Africa's transformation.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Well, my story begins in the hills of Kabale, because that is my origin, what I would call my birth place, really.
Okay.
But then it staggers a little bit between there and Ntungamo, because Ntungamo is the place that I call home, for the mere fact that my family migrated there when my father was still a young man trying to find his own bearings,
Yes.
really. And so that's where my story really begins, between Kabale Hills and Ntungamo.
Somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle. So I started my primary school in Ntungamo, in a village school near my home. And went to P1 direct, of course. There was while in my time, of course, there were nursery schools that people could attend. I was not one of the people that had the privilege
The lucky.
of attending one. I wasn't among the lucky ones. So I went to P1 direct.
Yeah.
That was in 87. I went to P1 in 1987, and then I think I repeated P1 and was in P1 still in 1988, because I didn't study most of 1987, because around that time my father took leave from work, and I was a clingy kind of child. So when he took leave, I ended up actually spending a lot of time with him, and my parents didn't mind, because they thought I had started when I was a bit young anyway. So 1987 was wasted like that. So I started serious schooling in 1988 in Ntungamo. And then I transferred in P3 to Kabale town in a school called Chikunjiri, and then went to Kigeza High School for 6 years, and then joined Makerere University. And so that's the story of my childhood and education. That's where it starts from, really.
Let me interject a little bit here, Mr. Mugisha. You have seemingly settled in Ntungamo, somewhere in the middle between Kabale and Ntungamo, and you move again. What's the motivation behind the shifting of the capital?
Now, it so happens that the school where I had started my primary one,
Yes.
it wasn't that good, and so my father thought it fit that I should shift to a better school in Kabale town. Unfortunately, he was working in Kabale himself, so he would be in Kabale during the weekdays and then come to Ntungamo,
Over the
to the
weekend.
village home in Ntungamo over the weekend. So he decided that I should go to Kabale and join him and study in a school near where he was staying. So that's how I shifted. That was 1990. I was getting into P3, so I shifted to Kabale town. And one of the biggest challenges in that shift is that in the village school in Ntungamo, we had been studying almost exclusively in vernacular. So now I switched to Kabale town, and everything is happening in English.
In Kingereza?
Yes. It was quite challenging, and
Really?
I remember those first days. I would actually get into class, and the lesson would actually go on, and I would practically not understand a single thing out of the whole lesson. And then the exams would come, and I'm seeing stars. And so that first school term in Kabale town is one of my most torturous memories. Of my childhood. It was quite torturous.
Yeah, I think for a child, I think it can be, it's very demanding mentally.
Yeah, sure.
You begin to feel some inadequacies.
Exactly. It was yes, it was quite challenging. Now I had been posting some good performance in P1 and P2 in the village school. Now I get to town, and I am seemingly one of the worst kids in class. It was quite torturous. Now I remember that first school term, that first term of primary 3.
Yeah.
We sat exams. It was quite tormenting. It was a miracle, though. I was the 17th in class. I don't know how. But it's the worst position I've ever registered
in school.
In school, in an exam. Yeah. So, but it was really quite challenging. So, but then after that, that 1990 ended, and I joined P4 in 1991 in the same school. Now, when I joined P4 in 1991, I had begun to really form an idea of what I should do to get out of this trap of feeling inadequate.
Yeah.
Now, when I went back for the school holidays after the first time of P4,
yes,
1991, I basically started reading. My father had a home library in the village home, and there were very many books there, including novels by African writers mainly. So I decided to start reading novels.
Yeah.
As early as that, I wouldn't really pick the whole story, but I started connecting English phrases from some of those writings, the works of Chinua Achebe and their peers.
Wow.
That in P4.
P4.
So I decided to really bury myself into that kind of life now. So when I would go back to the village, I would basically get to those books and read them quite deeply.
You did justice.
Yeah. And by the end of P4, actually, I could sense that I was very confident with the English language. I still had some challenges with mathematics, but now understanding English helped me, of course,
the gateway.
Yeah, it was the gateway into quite a number of other things that make life easier in school.
Yeah.
Because I could answer questions easily, I could read and understand the school notes, I could really get my way around with a lot of ease.
The comprehension now comes with a lot of ease.
Yeah, that's right. That's very right. So by the time now I got into P5, I was a star by the standards of that school. Of that school. And so I get into P5 in 1992 and P6 in 1993, P7 in 19, and I start my P7 in 94, and I emerged the best from that class, and then I really started.
Where do you go from there?
Now from there, after P7. There were I didn't want to dream beyond Kabale because I could tell that the finances within my parents' pockets were not going to allow my excitement to take me outside of Kabale. So there were two choices. I would either go to Kigezi High School or go to Kigezi College Butobere because they are the two best schools around Kabale at the time. Now, my father was very firm that I had to go to Kigezi High School because my two elder brothers had gone to Kigezi College Butobere, and maybe I get the impression maybe he was thinking that they were becoming a bit complicated in terms of how the character they were developing. So I ended up in Kigezi High School in 1995 for S1, and I was there for 6 years actually.
Wow. Kigezi High School.
Kigezi High School for 6 years until the year 2000.
The school that makes 100 years of existence.
Exactly, the school that made 200 years this year. Yes, that was my school for 6 years between 1995 and 2000.
Fast forward, Mr. Mugisha, you leave Kigezi High School. Let's get into your campus life. Campus life, the molding of that bit of career. Yeah. Now
I had actually got the idea that I want to be an engineer around the time when I was in P5, and the reason why I developed that passion for engineering was because where we lived with my dad in Kabale town was government quarters, staff quarters for government workers, where the current Kabale University is. It used to be quarters for government workers at the time. So we lived there, and our next neighbor in the house where we lived, the next house, there was an engineer working with between government and UNICEF projects. and Fred was much younger than my dad, and he was rich.
Well,
So I looked at him and admired him.
His way of life triggered.
Yes, I looked at him and I thought I wouldn't mind becoming like him when I attained his age. So one time I just told my dad, but I think I want to be an engineer. So he asked me why. I say, but you see, Fred has a lot of money. He seems to be doing well, and I really wouldn't mind being like him. So my dad tells me, yeah, if you study hard, there is nothing to stop you.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to be an engineer from that time. Now, fortunately for me, I started getting a way around mathematics, which was a core
if you're
subject
thinking
for
in the line of
for
engineering,
the interest in engineering.
then you need to be friends
Yeah,
with
sure,
algebra.
you really need to have your comfort with numbers.
Yeah.
But I fortunately had developed that around P6. I started registering my best grades in mathematics around P6, and I passed it very well at P7. And then, so by the time I go to S1, I was sure I wanted to be an engineer. And so, of course, we had to battle with all the kinds of subjects for O-level.
70 must have been about.
It was a minimum
13?
of 8. No.
I mean,
actually,
when you start off
yes,
from
when we
senior
started
one,
S1, they could have been 15 or 16.
That's quite
Quite a lot.
That's quite a lot.
So by the time we got to S3, you could drop off some. I think I had 9 subjects between S3 and S4. And then at A level, I did physics, chemistry, and math.
PCM.
Yes, and fine art, but I didn't study fine art at O level. I just started it at A level because I wanted to enhance the chances of getting enough points. Actually,
To skip to
get to engineering at university, and I'm glad I did actually. If I did not do fine art, I wasn't actually going to qualify for engineering. But fine
the
art,
weights
were going to knock me out. Yes, the weights were going to knock me out. But when I went to the fine art teacher in S5 and told him that I want to actually add fine art to my physics, chemistry, and math. And he was a very friendly man. He is still my very good friend and one of the mentors, one of the people that have really impacted my life so much. And he said, "Oh, really? You want to do fine art?" So he said, "Okay, take a seat there." So I took a seat. He put a kerosene lamp in front of me and said, "Okay, now
give me the image,
please." Pick the pencil there.
This is Raymond. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Yes. And so I spent there some time trying to fidget around to draw this thing. And by the time I did, he smiled at me and said, "Well, not really there, but good enough. You can come tomorrow for the lesson." Wow! And so that's how. And that's how actually
your combination is full.
PCM art.
And there you go.
Yeah. So I am actually grateful that the teacher did not actually discourage me. He's the current chaplain of St. Francis.
Oh, the Uncle O.
Yes,
Reverend.
He was our fine art teacher.
Yes.
So I do PCM art, and then I get into Makerere. Now when I filled the forms to go to for the end of S6,
yes.
The normal thing is really to have to fill out courses that is really a bit distant in terms of the requirements that you need to take you the scores, the weights as you call them. So it's better that you really put courses that are a bit spaced
to increase your chances.
To increase the chances. Yes. Now, unfortunately, me, I was a bit too stubborn, and I filled out 4 engineering courses. And we had 4 choices. You have to choose 4 courses, and I chose 4 engineering courses. And because I was like, no, it is either engineering or engineering.
Yeah.
So, but of course, it was a childish mistake.
Yeah.
Because I could have missed entirely on the opportunity
Yeah.
of going to university
Yeah.
On government scholarship at
Yeah.
least, which was almost the only option because I don't think my parents would have afforded to pay for me. So fortunately, I got to be admitted on agriculture engineering, which was actually my last
The fourth.
the fourth.
This is life
A
hanging
yes
on a thread.
Yes, because I remember when the results came out, I had really failed chemistry, so to speak, in terms of the objective and the targets I had failed chemistry.
Yeah.
It didn't come to me as a surprise because I don't think in my life I had ever felt tortured by an exam like I was tortured by the chemistry practical exam at the end of my S6.
Yeah.
So I wasn't expecting very good grades. I was in chemistry, and yes, I didn't pass it so well. Fortunately, I had passed mathematics and physics well, so I ended up being admitted on government's sponsorship for agricultural engineering, and that's how I got to Makerere on that course, 4-year course, and I stayed in Lumumba Hall.
Oh.
Yes.
Let's allow me, Raymond, that before you tell us how gallant you were as an elephant in Lumumba and the Lumboks solidarity.
Yes.
We'll just take a very short break, dear viewers. Thank you so much for sticking by. This is us, the CEO, and we're hosting a very, very fine gentleman, career man, well-learned, from different backgrounds, from agriculture to auditing, business, and here we are. We will be right back after the break, and when we return, he will be telling us about his life at the university, and then we will smoothly, seamlessly get into the second part of the show, the beacon of Africa's transformation lying on the shoulders of the African youth. Stick with us, please.
With 200 million people aged between 15 and 24, Africa has the youngest population in the world. This can either be an opportunity or a ticking time bomb. At Young and Flourishing Hub, we seek to turn these numbers into an opportunity for Africa to become a global leader. Join us every Monday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. only on Church of Uganda Family TV as we take you through the discussion of different topics that will enable you to become world-class leaders and mentors, grow your finances, and become world-class innovators. Young and Flourishing, transforming Africa.
Hello, welcome back from that short break. Before we slid into it, we're listening from our guest tonight. Now, he was telling us about his life at the Ivory Tower. We're talking Makerere University. But I would like to beg of you that if you could rewind a little bit, how do you get to Makerere? I understand you put in some work, but is there something that was pushing you? Is there some motivation, some sort of motivation you had? How about mentoring? Was there something that was pushing you to try and achieve all this?
Yeah, right. Apollo, yes, that's right. I had a very impactful father, and my biggest mentor in this life was my biological father. He was a man whose life was an open book, and I was lucky that I spent a lot of time with him as a child.
Yes.
And from the time I told you I shifted from the village school to the town school,
Yes.
I left my mother in the village and joined my father in town. And we had a lot of time together. I remember very many nights when he would come, like on Friday evenings when he knew there was no school the following day, and he would basically come and sit on my bed when I was really trying to catch my sleep, and he would sit on my bed and tell me stories about his own life, from when he was a boy, to how he went to school, to how his relationship with his own father was, and how his relationship with his siblings was, and the responsibilities he took as a young man after school, and things like that. And then he would even bring his academic certificates, actually, and challenge me to, say, read through and see, and remind me that I had to be better than him, because he had basically come from a background that was much lower than what he could afford for me.
Yeah.
So he would challenge me and motivate me to be much better than him. And he made me believe in myself. He basically opened my mind to believe that anything was possible as long as I put my best foot forward.
Wow.
And so I had a very, very deep mentoring father. I had the father that mentored me so deeply.
Allow me,
in my childhood. Yes.
Ndugu Raymond, allow me request you just one more time that if you could be kind to us and the viewer, and you look straight in the camera, tell a parent who is probably watching the show, an intending parent, how important this is to the development of a child's mind.
Yes, it is my firm belief, from experience actually, that a parent is the best motivator that a child can have. And a child that feels loved and whose insecurities are attended to by their parent is highly likely to actually achieve a lot in life, to succeed at what their goals are. And so every parent should make the extra effort to make that time. I know it's a busy world we live in today, but the attention that you give to your child, the words of affirmation, can create in them a spirit of determination and self-belief that actually cannot be matched by any motivation that they will get anywhere else in life.
Very, very profound words from our guest tonight, and I will abstain from adding anything. I'm not sure it will be useful. Very, very, very amazing package. Now let's skip now back to your life at the university. We roll through it and how you get into the marketplace. You went to, did you say PwC?
Yes, that's what.
Yeah, one of the big four, and how you announce yourself on this stage.
All right. So I joined Lumumba, and I was basically now when engineering, agricultural engineering at that time, we would have the first 2 years of the course mainly in the Faculty of Technology.
Yeah,
That's
with
what it
mechanical
was,
engineering
mechanical
students.
engineering.
Oh,
And then we would have, of course, with a few lectures happening at the Faculty of Agriculture,
yes.
to be in touch with the heart of what we were meant to be after school. And then after the 2 years, we would now really
Shift
fully to agriculture and do courses that were really meant specifically to tuners to become agriculture engineers. And so that was my life for the 4 years at university. In Lumumba Hall, I wasn't one of the very vibrant culturists.
The Lumumbists.
Yes, exactly. I wasn't one of the vibrant ones.
Yeah.
I was more into church ministry.
Yeah.
And there seemed to be a bit of a contradiction between the two. So
Yeah.
so I
That in that environment, that must have been helpful.
yeah, sure, that's right.
I for one, I was in Lumumba.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
4 years.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's very good. And so I went through university really, dividing my time between academics and ministry at church attached to St. Francis. I was part of the Kigezi Anglican Youth Missioners, and we spent quite a bit of time trying to evangelize back home at the end of every semester.
Yeah.
We'd go back home to evangelize in the local
mission
communities, to mission ground. And that was really my life. So I really enjoyed a lot of that. My life actually would still not be as complete as university, really, if I concentrated on only academics.
Yes.
And so I I was at university 4 years. At the end of the 4 years, naturally we started trying to look for jobs. So when we were finishing the 4 years, I basically was looking for engineering jobs. Of course, that's what I had studied.
Yeah.
And then at the end of every academic year, the big audit firms would come to university to recruit.
They come shopping.
Yeah, they come shopping.
Yeah, for the best brains.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I was in my room, and one of my colleagues comes and says, "You man, I picked these forms, but I don't think I'll be interested. I don't think I'll be interested. Would you like to fill these forms?" And and in those days we were not really using a lot of these online things.
Yeah.
So the forms were physical.
Yeah.
You'd fill them and deliver them.
Yeah.
So this guy gives me his forms, and I fill them out, and they deliver them at PwC. And in the meantime, there was a tea company called James Finlay's. It had, I think they have since changed name or sold to another company with a different name. They had a lot of estates in the west part of Uganda, and I had done industrial training with them in Bushenyi, actually, in Chamhunga. So they were looking for engineers to go and join their teams. And I had also applied. And I went and did interviews with them at their headquarters in Fort Portal. And I did pass. So meanwhile, the interviews at PwC also commenced. So I had, when I finished university, shortly after, I had 2 jobs on the table. So I had a job in James Finlay's as an engineer.
In your field?
My field. Yeah. It was assistant factory engineer by title, if I remember well, something like that. And then I had an opportunity to join PwC as an audit associate. And yet now my love for engineering was put to test, because if you have been interested in becoming an engineer from
and
P5,
it's now here before
you have a job to practice your engineering, you have another one to go and start something different. But then at that time I was reading the situation back home. My father was nearing retirement, and my mother was a housewife since the late 80s. And so I knew there was going to be a financial need.
So you needed some
financial
injection.
Exactly. so now I made a decision, really, depending on the money.
Yeah.
And the job at PwC was paying me twice what the job at James Finlay's was offering.
Yeah.
And so I went to PwC.
Yeah. It was an easy pick.
It wasn't a difficult decision.
Yeah.
It wasn't. So that's how I joined
PwC.
And I was there for 3 years. I had a brief stint at Deloitte and Touche, and then joined the banking sector as an intern auditor. And I was in the banking sector for around 4 years, between 3-4 years again. And I went into insurance. But in the banking sector, I started as an intern auditor. Then around somewhere along the way, after the credit crunch, the global credit crunch hit. There was pressure now.
Is this 2008?
Yeah, around 2008.
Yeah.
Now the pressure for having risk managers in financial institutions begins mounting.
Yeah.
And the easiest place for banks to recruit risk managers was audit. So there were many people switching from audit to risk management, and I was one of them. Yeah. So I took up my first job as a risk manager in the banking sector, and then I was there for a couple of years, and then switched to insurance, still as a risk management personnel, and I was there for some time, and then I went private to do the same work. Really.
Wow. When you listen to someone of his caliber, I hope there's a pulse of inspiration that rises up from within, especially if you are a young person that's watching us. This is Ask the CEO, a show that comes to you every Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. and it is powered by Young and Flourishing. So we have people like him who come on this show we have them share their background so that you can know who is speaking to you and where they come from. So maybe you can be inspired to believe that as long as you're committed to the cause, nothing will stand in your way. Now we will shift to the last part, Ndugu Raymond, which is the African youth.
Yes.
I, for a fact, know that your heart beats for this continent.
That's right.
Jam-packed with a lot of opportunities. Like we said earlier, blessed with a host of resources. Amazing weather. Tropical weather. And the equator cuts halfway, second biggest continent, and yet the African youth continues to struggle.
That's right.
How are they supposed to position themselves to yield from this? What is that mentality that they need to dress themselves with to be able to come out as winners?
Okay, now the African environment unfortunately presents a lot of challenges, and I have noticed that a number of youths actually get sucked into a state of losing hope because because you see they look around themselves and everywhere they see challenges and hurdles and complications.
Yeah.
And I can tell, you just need to browse through social media to tell that a number of youths get frustrated actually by looking at what is around them. They don't seem to see hope in their environment.
Yeah.
And that can be quite draining. But on the other hand, of course, there is also those who have gone ahead of them that basically also compound the problem by resounding the complications as a state of hopelessness all the time. I think it's not very.
Instead of amplifying what's possible, what can go well.
Yeah. So in reality, we need people who motivate our youths. That yes, challenges are there, but there is hope. Something can be actually worked on by yourself, and you can transform your life. And of course, youths will ask you real questions of how do I transform myself? I have no capital. I have nowhere to start. My parents cannot sponsor me for any business or something like that. And those are hard realities. You know, because I'm talking of having finished school and had two job offers to choose from. There's someone who finished school and has never had a single job offer.
And it's been a couple of years.
And it's been a couple of years. So those are the real challenges. So I know that for a fact there are challenges that we cannot downplay. But I think the biggest weapon that someone can have to transform themselves to begin with is the mindset. You know, a mindset that drives a lack of hope, a state of no hope at all, is the first biggest danger. Because I know for a fact, again, that there are a number of youths that you will call for a job and they will judge it and be like, no, I don't think I can do this. I'd rather be seated at my father's home for now. Now, that's a mindset problem. Because they don't know that you can start small and actually turn out very big. There are very many stories that are quite different from mine, where people started from almost nothing. Me, I started from being employed, so I was riding on the capital of others. But there are people who have never been employed, and they will tell you stories, and you can tell that the mindset is what really took them to success. So the despising of jobs, and also
that needs to change.
It needs to change, and also I think there is a growing tendency for people to believe that society owes them a lot. I think that's another mistake that has to be dealt with.
Entitlement.
The sense of entitlement. The sense of entitlement sometimes, for some, really, not all. There are people that are struggling for real and things are difficult. But there are people who feel entitled. They feel a society owes them something that is still due and not paid, and things like that. So they will blame their parents, they will blame their older siblings, they will blame their leaders.
They will basically blame everyone
apart from themselves. And that can be dangerous. That can be very dangerous. But for people who are really struggling, and they are not few, struggling and looking for what to do, for how to transform their lives, and the situation it seems closed. It's like no door is open for them. I know that without doubt there is hope for that kind of person, because the doors cannot keep closed forever. For someone with a positive mindset who is actually aggressively applying themselves to find solutions to the challenges they face, it's just a matter of time. And they will find one open door. They don't need many. They just need one open door to go through, and things will begin to take shape.
It is said that when one door closes, another door opens. But most times, we spend a lot of time looking at the closed door, that we miss the open door. I hope his words are able to encourage someone who is watching the show tonight, that there is an opportunity that will meet you when you're ready. Just be prepared. Les Brown says it's better to be prepared and have no opportunity than to have an opportunity and unfortunately you're not prepared at the time. So Mr. Mugisha, Raymond, aka Mpora, what is your say about mentorship? I know you talked about it earlier. At Young and Flourishing, it's one of the things that are in the driving seat of this whole force, of this movement. How far does it go to actually change the people's mindset, even as we try to come to the close of the show?
Yeah, to begin with, I believe there is no substitute for experience. And that's why mentorship is so important. Because what a mentor brings to their mentees is something that cannot actually be substituted with a lot of reading, with a lot of education, of school, of formal education.
Yeah.
So mentorship is very, very key, because people are telling you from experience. There's no substitute for that. Yeah. And it can go a long way. First of all, it appeals to hope, to a sense of hope. For people to tell you where they have come from, then you can judge and place your own current station and know that not all hope is lost. And that's very, very important. It influences the mindset of those that are aspiring to be like those who are actually mentoring them. It builds that hope. And we need a lot of it for Africa, you see, because we have an exploding population. Yeah. Looking for meaning in life, looking for work to do, and the opportunities seem to be constant or growing at a much slower pace, at best. And so we need to mentor people to develop the mindsets that are necessary for people to become part of the solutions, even when they are young. Actually, in reality, the young people can be a very big driving factor if they are harnessed. Their potential is harnessed and put to good use. They could be the engine that Africa needs to transform. So mentorship is good for growing the positive mindsets we need, but also for building on the technical knowledge they have acquired through school and through some of the skilling work they have done, to tap into that and expound on it and grow it to meet their dreams. There is no substitute again for a hand that holds a weaker one, a firm hand that holds a weaker one to cross some of the rough patches. And that's why we need to emphasize mentorship of the youth, to position them and direct them very beneficially, in realistically, in view of the circumstances we are in as a continent. There are unique challenges here. Our African youths face challenges that are maybe unknown anywhere else, and we need people with a very deep passion for Africa's transformation to mentor youths, African youths, for African interests, and that will go a long way to basically transform our societies, to impact these youths, and also to create younger mentors for the coming generations, because you can only rest assured that there will be more youths in Africa 10 years from now than you have today. And we need to build the momentum. And if we don't, we will have youths actually that are going to become a problem for Africa. So the opportunity we have in our youths, actually, if we do not tap into it and grow it, then we'll have a problem. And the youths maybe will have a level of reason to blame those who have gone ahead of them. If you have not made any effort to influence them, to basically build them up, to hold their hands and show them the way and help them to navigate the challenges that we face.
Truer words couldn't have been spoken. He's saying a thing or two because he knows a thing or two. Now, as we try to close the show, Mr. Mugisha, we know for a fact that there is no script to life, which is why, dear viewer, we bring on this show people from all walks of life, from the glittering tables of career to the hustles downtown in the Ugandan capital and across the cities in Africa. We have no script to life. There's no script to life.
That's right.
And so speak to someone, a youth out there. The reason we bring people, we have this diversity here, is because we believe someone who is watching us tonight probably has a niche in career, is so interested in career. Someone is not able to make it career-wise and can go the business path.
That's right.
Could you say something to the viewer, look straight in the camera, give them that pat on the back?
You know, it really doesn't matter what one is pursuing, as long as it's not illegal and it is not against God.
Yeah.
You can succeed virtually in anything you're pursuing, as long as you're passionate about it. I told you I had I had passion for engineering.
Yeah.
I didn't do it at the start when I transferred to PwC and joined audit. No, I didn't have the passion.
Yeah.
Now, over the years, I grew. I developed a lot of passion for what I do over the years, and I am so passionate about the work I do currently. And you know that passion is actually could do much more than the knowledge you carry in your head.
Yeah.
If you're knowledgeable but you lack passion, it doesn't really normally work. So if someone has a passion as a career staff, they want to work and pursue their careers and grow to different levels in organizations, it's very noble. And they can achieve it if they focus on it, as long as they are passionate about what they do. Yes, we work for money, we work to get paid. No one should be deceived that anyone works and they are not thinking about their paycheck.
Yeah.
But the passion to do that work is very, very important, be over and above the paycheck for you to progress. Now for someone, I know a couple of people who finished school, who finished university and never went to do any work. They actually, a colleague of ours we had in Lumumba finished university and went to a window market to sell clothes. And they succeeded at it. And you know, as long as someone has the passion.
The passion.
Yes, that's why I tell people that there are even people who have dropped out of school for lack of money or for any other reason. Yeah. And I usually tell them that actually you can still succeed.
Yeah.
You can actually do better than even the people that went on to finish their degrees and got qualifications. Because if you find something and that you want, you love to do, and you apply yourself to it, business, anything, in business, you apply yourself to it and you're passionate about it, you will definitely succeed at it. And there are very, very many opportunities. You just look at people doing work that is not considered high end. People are welding, doing all those kinds of things, and they are making quite a lot of money. Sometimes a lot much more than people seated behind desks in very
enjoying some AC.
Exactly. So there's hope for everyone who has focus and is consistent and has the right mindset. There's hope.
Yeah, beautiful words from our guest tonight. His name, in case you're catching us in the evenings of the show, his name is Mr. Mugisha Raymond, and his friends call him Mpora. Now he says, if you have passion and you go straight at whatever you want to achieve, nothing is going to stop you on your way up to the top. It's been a pleasure having you here, Ndugu Raymond.
Thank you.
And I hope, because the African topic is quite wide,
That's
it's
right.
squeezed into just 1 hour of airtime.
That's right.
We hope we can have him again sometime much later. Thank you so much for sticking by. It's always a pleasure knowing that you are watching us and listening in from the other side. It's been Apollo Sabiiti, your host, and this show is powered by Young and Flourishing. Happens every Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. We hope to catch you next week. Good night.